Hey, everyone. Welcome to Hoboken Talks, or tonight it's like exhibit talks. And my name's Bob Foster. I'm the director here at the museum. And we decided to feature our current exhibit, The Avenue, because it's all going to be coming down. We have like today's December 15th, it's a Tuesday, so we go until December 23rd, but this will be archived, so maybe it's down by the time you see it, but you still have a week and 3 or 4 days to see it. This exhibit went up in August, and we've had a really good run. There will be a digital version of this exhibit, which will be introduced in 2023. See, I didn't give a date. And so that'll be good. It'll be the first time we've done that. And, the Avenue is kind of a familiar term for Washington Street. And in the old days, folks would say, "See you on the Avenue." So hence we chose that as the title. Some people get confused and say, when did it stop being called the Avenue? It never was the Avenue, only if you were really in the know. So we're going to take you through the exhibit, and some of this will be reading text. Some of it will be just kind of exploring it visually, but we're glad you're tuning in. And whenever you do an exhibit, you have an entry point, and with the museum, the layout, it's always a little funky. Where do you start? But where we are here now is kind of the start. And again, the Avenue, A History of Washington Street. Before I go into my monologue, I do want to thank all the different people who put this exhibit together. We have Rand Hoppe here, who is behind the camera, but
I'm here.
will be joining us. And we'll switch positions, shall we say. And he was very instrumental in the creating of the exhibit. I'll say the text was done by Holly Metz, who I'm very familiar with, and she is also in charge of the oral history chapbook program, but she agreed to do the intro text, which is, was really important to put it in context, as we say. McKevin Shaughnessy, who is our long-standing designer and did, I'll say, the exhibit design, and we'll look at some of his elements when we explored the exhibit. Of course, Melissa Abernathy worked on it, as did Bill Curran. And then we had an artifact handler who was Frank Hanovan, who will be joining us. The same team actually will be joining us for our next exhibit, which we'll kind of segue out on and discuss a bit. So anyway, here we are at the intro to the Avenue, and it says A History of Washington Street. And we are exploring the city's main street. In a lot of ways, Washington Street could have been called Stevens Street, or it could have been called Main Street, but hence Washington Street was chosen. Obviously, after George Washington, the father of our country. And so, most people know who Washington was. And maybe they just got sick and tired of doing main streets. They're all over. There's probably quite a few Washington streets, but this is our Washington Street. And it's pretty much believed that the Stevens family, when they laid out the town, when they start taking control of the city, that some of the first maps that we see, 1804 period, do show the streets of Hoboken laid out, and Washington Street being that prominent street. With this exhibit, we are trying to tell history from many different perspectives. And the way Holly introduced it is sort of taking one property that has changed over time. Gets a little confusing, and I'm going to have to actually look and crib some notes here. But the address that we're dealing with here is on Washington Street, and the address is 621 Washington Street. Now, most people know it as the Haven Savings Bank, and we're probably getting a little George in there. Haven Savings Bank What do I say? Has its own parking lot, sort of that beautiful architecture of the 1970s.
It's brutalism.
It's brutal. Brutalism. Right across from Benny Tadino's, if you're trying to get a sense of things. And it turns out previously to Haven Savings Bank, it was the home of the U.S. Theater. And that was sometimes known as the Scratch House, I believe, because of its the residents who lived in the chairs, the Scratch House. But in its day was a very fine theater, but was demolished, and the beautiful Haven Savings Bank is there now.
Not only that, but we have, the theater was knocked down, and it was a parking lot for the Union Club for many years, which is around the corner on Hudson Street.
Gotcha.
So we have a shot of the PSE&G building, which is next to it. And then there's a sign that's a beautiful sign that says parking for Union Club right there.
Okay.
Hilarious.
Then going back further in time, it so happens that this property was owned by an African-American family, the Lee family. And it turns out the Lee family take on the property in 1804 when Washington Street is first being constructed. So who knew that one of the first residents on Washington Street was an African-American family, the Lee family, and connected to the very famous Peter Lee, who was, shall we say, a servant for the Stevens family for many, many years. He lived to almost be 100, and he is sort of a well-known fixture. So through what we call a plat book, which is early mapping books, which we have on display, we found out that the Lee family owned this property, and Peter Lee's parents were slaves on the Stevens estate, as were some other relatives. It's a little murky whether Peter Lee was born into slavery and not released. There's that manumission program where you didn't have to release slaves, and he comes in right on the edge there. We do believe he was born into slavery on that estate.
We have a few comments from our viewers.
Yeah, definitely.
So Ellen Frey says she's glad to have seen the exhibit a few times. It's cool to see it through our lens.
Nice.
And her brother Eric Cameron also says all involved in an excellent job. And Nancy Swab says that she loved growing up there, and so from 61 to 75.
Okay, and
it's great to hear from you.
She's not part of the camera family.
She's not. No,
okay,
that's right.
Okay, it's good to diversify.
No, we love hearing from folks. So
yes.
if you have any comments or questions while we're live here, please put them in the chat there on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll do our best to respond.
Yeah, thanks, Rand, for reminding them.
Yeah,
and yeah, any question or comment in the positive vein will be, shall we say, repeated.
Right. Eric says that his wife read Holly's book about Peter Lee and really enjoyed it.
A plug on there.
There we go. Yeah,
definitely. So we sort of break down the intro into 3 sections, and obviously Washington Street physically has changed over time. And we start off with this. It's a digital reproduction of a drawing by John Bournett, 1852, and it shows a graphite drawing, watercolor wash of Washington Street. And if this doesn't look like Lambertville or New Hope, I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like we're in Hoboken.
It's pretty bucolic.
Yeah. And can you remind us how we got this visual?
Oh gosh, it was my adventure. It was something we were looking through papers that were donated to us by Jim Hans, our founder.
Okay.
And I was looking, there was a folder in there, and it had these drawings in it that were black and white photocopies, like from back in the day, and Jim had photocopied them. And I was absolutely blown away by them. Like I'd never seen them before, etc. So it mentioned that they were from the New York Historical Society. So I went on their website and did some searching in their archive, and they had 1 or 2 of them listed, but it was clear that the Bournett drawings. There were maybe 24 of them, and 6 of them were of Hoboken.
Right. And some of Washington Street.
And some of Washington Street. Yeah, two of them were indicated as being of Washington Street. So I did reach out to the New York Historical Society, and this is how we're able to use this in our exhibit through a kind of a loan or a usage.
Sure, sure. It's a digital reproduction.
Yeah,
but,
and I actually somehow there was also a connection with Stevens, and it had prompted me to go to the Stevens archive and look there. And that's where Jim got his photocopies from back in the 70s or something. He was looking through the Stevens papers and found the Bornet drawings there, is what I guess.
Sure. So, and we do find that the Stevens family were kind of the main family in Hoboken. Population's very low.
Yeah.
So if there was an artist visiting this area, many times the Stevens family would engage them to do a portfolio, a painting, things like that.
Here's the thing. After the exhibit went up, and I kind of started getting involved in looking at more of the maps and bird's eye views of the area, the metropolitan area, because more often than not, it's like Manhattan and environs.
Yeah, right? We're an environment.
We're an environment.
Who knew?
And there's one that is tagged as Bornet having worked on.
Okay.
So it's possible that these drawings were part of his research for preparing that bird's eye. He might have done it in Brooklyn and Queens as well, is what I'm saying.
Sort of sketches.
Yeah, that's right.
Prep sketches.
Because we use those bird's eyes almost really close to being historical documents. You can tell when they're a little junky with the buildings and stuff.
Sure.
Or inaccurate, I should say. But some of them are amazingly accurate for being just etchings and drawings. So he was involved in that.
Right. So Washington Street, as we know, has changed. We're kind of proud of our Washington Street's architecture. It is within the historic district. There's certain protections, and we often use postcards as references. So we're looking at postcards generally before World War I. They show all those parking spaces. They show trolley
wide
tracks.
Open street.
And sometimes they're colorized, like the one you're looking at now. The telephone poles are kind of interesting because they were really elaborate.
They were.
And eventually storms hit and they change. But again, we're looking at the changing landscape. The map that we're seeing to the right is in a vertical format, so that'll be challenging. And I will mention this is the Show Stunner aerial map. And we have Mark Singleton to thank for it. We pined after this map for years. It's a very large framed photograph. This is a digital reproduction. And we put on Washington Street in yellow highlight. And you can see how busy the waterfront is. This is the real industrial Hoboken, 1940s, coming out after World War II. But again, it's the same street grid pretty much as 1804, except for maybe the west side of town, which changes. But again, Washington Street is the same. The block distances are the same. And that's pretty amazing. Then we're kind of moving on to the next section, which is changing populations. And, Hoboken's always been an immigrant community. And the stores on Washington Street are catering to the different immigrant populations. So this section is showing pictures of people from all different backgrounds, lots of diversity that are from the museum's collection. Some may have been reproduced in chapbooks. Some are just from, people walking the door and saying, hey, I got a picture of my grandparent. Would you like it? And that sort of thing. And we usually, most of you are going to know the story of immigrants here in Hoboken, but basically we say after the 1860s, when the North German Lloyd and Hamburg American ships are coming through here, that they are bringing lots of Germans. So that first wave of Germans is here. They bring their culture.
Little Bremen?
Little Bremen was one of the nicknames for the town. And the mayor's German, the police are German,
right.
Newspapers are in German, German schools, the Hoboken Academy.
German acrobat clubs.
It was Germanville.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Germans come with their money and their culture. And so they're pretty much in charge of the town,
right.
in terms of a group.
Right.
And then we make way for other groups that are really coming for economic reasons, such as the Italians and the Irish. And I guess I can reverse that order. It's not like a date when it starts or it ends, and it's still happening, but the numbers are pretty big.
Yeah.
And we also mentioned that later in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s and 70s, we have other groups, usually Hispanic backgrounds, Yugoslavian also, but Cuba,
right.
South America, Puerto Rico, which is part of this country, but they are coming here and come to work for, you know, sort of basic factory jobs. But the stores on Washington Street tend to you know, connect with residents who will shop locally. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
I guess we could do this now. We do want to mention up above, we have this incredible contemporary shot of Washington Street of the West Side. And this was created by McKevin Shaughnessy. He went around with this tiny little camera and then produced these highly detailed images and then stitched it together. And you know, there's a lot to look at in this exhibit down below, but when you look up, you go, oh my gosh. And we believe that this has never been done before. And one of my hopes is that, I don't know, every 5 years we could do it again.
Yeah.
And we all know how the stores on Washington Street change. And we sort of talk about the Washington Street game, where people try to remember what was at one particular location.
What was there before?
Exactly.
Yeah. And what about before that?
Right. And you kind of know, like, people, like how long they've been here by their saying, oh, when I used to go to Lalo's House of Charles, and the person next to him going, what are you talking about?
Right. That's right.
So we have that is always happening. What you're looking up above and seeing is the west side of the street.
That's right.
And what we did do is we ran out of space, basically.
Yeah.
So these computers can be a little glitchy, but we're going to try to bring you and just show you the, I'm going to push that. Wow, it worked.
It worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the top, we're seeing, again, the west side. And this takes you through. So we're going uptown. Okay. And we are moving north.
Yeah.
And this is kind of amazing. These computers have become really important. And you could go larger if you want.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of detail. And here we are around the 700 or 800 block on the east side. So down below is the east side. And I'm going to take you up. St. Matthew's in the background.
Right.
And the Stevens in the background. And again, I could just blow that up. So we didn't, you know, most of the stores which we feature in the exhibit and the businesses are on the west side, but we did want to have both sides of the street represented. And when we unroll our digital version of the exhibit, we will be using this map kind of as the backdrop and the template for the program.
Right.
So again, thanks to McKevin Shaughnessy, this panorama of Washington Street will live on.
Yeah.
The last section in our intro section is on sort of changing transportation and technology. And just think, in the old days, people would have, or could have, you could always walk, and you can still walk.
Right.
But you might have a trolley, which was, you know, was moved forward by a horse.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know that we had trolleys. And again, those trolleys eventually go electric and then are replaced by buses. And finding a horse-drawn trolley photograph isn't the easiest.
No,
as I remember,
that was a real gem.
I don't know where we even got it. Do you remember where it came from?
Oh my gosh. No.
Okay.
No.
But you know, that's pretty. You know, it is early. It's probably 1870s, and you don't have as many photographs from that time period. But there were some, and so I'm so glad we have that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get, well, the trolley tracks have probably been removed.
Right.
We do have trolley tracks around Hoboken in certain places.
Sure.
But I'm going to maintain that if you dug up certain blocks, you probably would find trolley tracks.
Oh, yeah. Second, I think 2nd Street.
Second, yeah.
I think
but who knows? Washington Street has been torn up so much for water main breaks, water, electrical. I'm going to guess there's no more trolley tracks down there. Okay.
You want to take a look at the plat book just for a sec?
Sure, sure.
You mentioned it earlier with the Peter Lee adventure.
Yep. So there is plot here listed. I wasn't going to come back because I wasn't sure if I was going to find it.
No, it's okay because we have a copy of it there.
Right. So it's plot 169 and 168. So
Yeah, I think it's up there.
Yeah, it's somewhere.
But describe what this fantastic book is.
I mean, this is a book that there would have been several copies, but this copy is from the Hoboken Land and Improvement Company.
Right.
And they are, in a sense, like a real estate development company that was associated with the Stevens family.
Right.
When the colonel moved on to the big castle in the sky, he made sure things were set up for the rest of the family.
Right.
And these were hand-drawn lots.
Yeah.
And you have to understand the Stevens family pretty much owned the land. And so this shows the transfer of properties. And I sort of forgot to put my glasses on. So, but one of these will say Sandy Lee, I believe. Sandy Lee.
Definitely right up here somewhere. I just don't know where.
It's 168 and 169. We might as well just go to this to show it.
Right.
Okay, and it's right here.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if that'll work.
I can get in.
On there, John Stevens. So John Stevens
to Sandy Lee.
To Sandy Lee. Sandy Lee is African American and definitely the son, if not himself, a slave at one point. Right. So they lived just down the hill from the Stevens.
Yeah.
And so they probably walked up to the estate and did their labor on there.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
I love how it says alley or Court Street. That was like
right. And yes, exactly.
One of my favorite little tidbits that we came across was that petition that was written to the city council.
Okay.
Can you please change it from alley to actually make it officially Court Street?
Right.
Which was
and someone was telling me the other day they would call it Pig Alley.
Pig Alley, yeah, that was me.
Yeah, okay.
There's also Pig Alley, yeah.
Okay.
Don't call it Pig Alley anymore.
On a really rainy day like today with the pooling, it does still look a little Pig Alley. Although it's my favorite street in town.
It's
for sure.
So what about these tumblers here?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to highlight different unusual goings on Washington Street. And it wasn't all stores and businesses,
right?
But downtown, down closer to City Hall, you had this kind of unique institution known as the Hoboken Turnverein. I think Turnverein refers to turning and tumbling, and you basically had this gymnastic group here, and these are formal pictures from that.
Yeah.
I think we unlocked these cases. Should I lift up and you can really get in?
Sure.
Just kind of fun.
A little less glare.
Yeah, definitely. So these are normally locked, so we don't want anyone to snag anything.
Yeah.
But what would you do with it anyway?
I know.
We do allow people to take pictures and take it home with them that way.
Really fond of it.
These pictures were taken by probably the premier photographer at the time, Manuel, who also had a studio on Washington Street.
Right.
We didn't really highlight his studio, but chances are, if you have a good, sharp picture of Hoboken before World War I, it's going to be by this guy. And I believe the other family was Magnus.
Correct.
And there are a few others, Pap Studio and so on.
Right.
But we loved when we find Emmanuel photos.
Yeah.
And this came to us not that long ago during the COVID period.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a family, gentleman whose family moved up the hill to West Hoboken, as it was known. And he was clearing out the estate and found these photos. And one of those, do you think you would want these? And of course, I was drooling on.
Yeah, of course you were.
Somehow, I guess he sent me a picture first, and they're la creme.
And this is a photo that actually shows you.
That's the exterior.
Yeah,
and
that's first.
We didn't get it too much into it, but it's titled "A Northwest Corner of Washington and First."
Right.
So what's there now?
Real estate agent. It's across the street from City Hall.
Right.
You know.
And the building on the corner was known as the Napoleon
Hotel.
And right to the left, it's hard to see, was stables. And I believe they were stables for the city horses.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they were the horses that pulled the trolleys.
Right.
On there. Just an educated
And that's where
guess.
the Shannon Lounge would be.
Shannon Lounge, and then previous the Bishop Theater.
Right.
On there. So to the right, we have a series of more contemporary photos. And the address here is, where are we?
What is it again?
We are
412 Wash.
412 Washington, which we know the even side numbers are on the west side of the street. Is this Anthropology?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, or it's what's going to be the new Nike store? I'm confused.
No, it's Anthropology. Yeah.
Okay.
Blockbuster Video.
We're playing the
game.
I was going to say
That's
Blockbuster,
right.
and I knew I'd get yelled at. We're playing the Washington Street game as we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, Holly did a lot of research on this. Turns out there was a circus school in that building.
Right.
I guess more on the second and third floor.
Yeah, they had
you had trapezes.
25-foot ceiling.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And maybe, it could have been higher even.
Yeah.
If they had all three floors. I'm not sure how it was broken up. But in Holly's research, we met Karen Gersh.
Right.
And Karen did a great program for the museum, which is virtual,
which is online.
Yeah,
you can see it.
And she talked about the couple who ran the circus school.
Yeah,
it was Nina Krasavina and Gregory Fedin, and they were kind of legendary. I guess I'd say immigrated from
Russia.
Immigrated from Russia. And left for political reasons and so on, and had a whole school, and a lot of people from that school helped form other circuses like the Big Apple Circus and maybe the little Circus Olay, and check out that program.
Yeah,
but these are pictures.
Karen's is great.
Karen, that was one of the best talks here at the museum.
Yeah,
I'm going to close this up carefully.
Yep.
Oh. Okay, and this is you definitely got to go top to bottom on here.
What's going on with this plumbing and heating supply wrench?
The wrench is about 16 feet long.
Oh my gosh!
It does come apart.
Right.
How we acquired it is a whole long story. I won't go into it, but it was used. This section that we're dealing with is parades.
Right.
And parades are kind of, lots of traditions are seen in parades, and Hoboken loves a parade. Things have been a little quieter on the parade front because of COVID, but in the good old days, we really got into it.
Yeah.
And so this pipe wrench, which is obviously a simulated enlarged pipe wrench, was on the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah,
and used in the 1955 Centennial Parade.
Of course. Sure.
And originally was Peony Plumbing that did it in the parade, and then River West took it on and adapted it. Right. And when they couldn't hang on to it, it became our Albatross. But I'm glad we got it in this exhibit for sure.
We have some great photos here of parades.
Yep. We always like parade images because they also show the background.
That's right.
And sometimes people forget to date their parade photos.
Yeah.
So many times we're, dating it by the background business.
Right. That's right. And this here is this is the U.S. theater here that we were talking about earlier
for the Havens Bank
Savings
location.
Bank. Yeah, that's right.
And we've actually had guests come into the museum, and it's a 50-year-old big kid.
Yeah.
And he goes, "That's me."
That's me. Yeah. Right there. And I was Batman or whatever.
I think this is Ducky Fontana.
You think that's Ducky? Okay.
It's either him or there.
Okay.
I think it's Ducky.
Yeah.
And then we learned that this is Anita Heimbrook, who took all our great photos.
This is an Anita Heimbrook photo. It's somebody else. It's the Mrs. Miller.
Oh,
I think it's Mrs. Miller.
Okay, I think you're right. Who like babysat for Ducky.
Yeah, babysat for Ducky, and she was in the world. We have a movie of her handing out food to the
World War I
guys,
the Doughboys.
Yep.
And we also have diaries and things like that.
We have a lot of her papers.
So I got that mixed up. It's a picture by Anita.
Correct.
And it happens to be Florence Miller.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
Okay.
And the parade on the right is one of the Hispanic parades that were pretty frequent in the day. Dancing in the street looks like a lot of fun.
You know it.
And this photo we have, oh gosh, why am I forgetting?
Is this a Linda Volkmer photo?
Yes, it's Linda Volkmer in the car.
In the car.
She is Miss Columbus. Okay. And in a really big convertible, right across and behind her is the Royal Restaurant. And of course, Shonings, which we'll talk about again in another minute.
Right.
So
again, we love parades because people take a lot of pictures, but then we get to see the stores, which is really fun.
Yes, and usually it's not the same store that's there now.
No, that's right. Even these Anita Heimbrook set of photos, she was standing here. She took a few shots of these Raggedy Anns. Right. It's like Bike Town.
Sure. Yeah.
Tell me more about Bike Town.
Yeah.
I want to know.
I love Bike Town. Sure. And we might as well sort of point way above if we can. Yeah. So the upper section is real general artifacts associated probably with different businesses in town. So we'll see this again, but Stan's, which we're happy to say is still here.
Yeah.
Stan's athletic store is where everyone got stuff. So we had fun putting up the cheerleader outfits with original pom-poms.
That's right.
On there.
And the megaphone.
And we haven't seen any moths up there, so we're happy.
We're good.
And that becomes important to the display.
Eric says that the parades were unbelievable. They got everybody involved.
Definitely.
They did.
Yep. Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, everyone.
And Ellen's loving the bus behind the Cadillac there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, those are the.
Great.
I don't know if they had. I called them Tooterville trolleys.
Tooterville trolleys. Yeah.
They were still operating in the '80s, which was probably 40 years after most of them disappeared. Right. And you sort of had, they would park at the end of Washington Street and just kind of sit there.
Yeah.
And you go,
why?
And
this monitor here, it's on a screensaver now, actually, but we have a few movie clips and home movies, and we have an audio recording of the
1955 parade with Mayor Grogan. But disregard what you're saying.
That's a screensaver. Yeah.
So, boy, we're into it for a half hour now.
That's right.
And we're only on Observer Highway.
We're on Observer Highway.
So this is just sort of a reminder that you really have, till December 23rd to come and check out the exhibit.
That's right.
So we're a poor substitute for actually getting your butt over here.
Yeah. Let's talk about the map, just to give it the big picture thing.
The big picture. That's a good shot.
I guess, the idea for the map again was, we had McKevin's panorama, but we also wanted to feature something that was that we could use as an element to kind of design the exhibit around, but McKevin's panorama was just too huge. So we had recently scanned the folks at the Jersey City Free Public Library, I believe.
John Beekman.
John Beekman had scanned this map and made it available, I believe, even to the Library of Congress or something. So we were able to grab this map, and it was, we chose it because it was a map of Washington Street where if you were a senior visiting us here at the exhibit, you would have been alive in the 50s. It's from 53, 54, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. So we thought that was the best map to use. We could have used one from the 40s or 30s, whatever, but just to be able to use one that was slightly more current and actually had people, recognize it.
And there is a key to this map, and you'll notice that it's color.
Yeah.
And it's important. This was, I think, referred to as the Sanborn map, which was used for fire insurance purposes.
Right.
And it's done for the entire city and many cities around the United States. We just sort of edited it down to the Washington Street.
That's right.
And it runs about, I'll say 40, 50 feet for sure.
Yep.
And we've placed artifacts above that generally relate to the block where they are placed.
That's right.
And the artifact, and that being the west side.
The west side, yeah.
And then down below is the east side, and those artifacts connect with that block.
Right.
And just coming through.
Sure.
And so I was talking about the colors and the key.
Yeah.
Pink is referred to as a building material for brick. And you're seeing a lot of pink.
That's right.
And yellow, which you'll see remnants of, is wood frame. Blue is kind of a stone material. And then you have this other material that is fireproof, could be a combination stone, concrete, which is around at the time, cast iron. The cross streets are in there, but they're kind of minimal.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to feature Washington Street.
Yep.
And so many people will come in and say, oh, I lived up Bloomfield Street. And they're looking for Bloomfield.
Yeah,
I go, next exhibit.
Next time. That's right.
Exactly. So
check out the archive on our website.
Yes, exactly. And, I guess people know that by now, that our exhibits change and they're kind of very focused, laser focused.
Right.
And this one, again, Washington Street.
Yeah.
And having this new digital exhibit will be good because it will be somewhat archived.
Yeah.
And of course, the presentation we're doing now kind of fills in some gaps.
Any favorites jump out at you from this area?
Well, we've also done other exhibits, like Every Object Tells a Story.
That's right.
So you kind of get into that.
Yeah.
I will say that this crock, which is from C.F. Krauss, 77 Washington Street, is pretty unusual to have a crock for Hoboken that early, unusual.
Right.
And, Krauss was a liquor company, so it was sort of like, you would go and, I guess, buy your 2 gallons of liquor, take it home with you, and then you could come back and fill it again. So it's kind of like recycling of the day.
Yeah.
This crock probably weighs 20 pounds. Frank Hanavan did a great job hanging it. It stayed. And a little precarious looking, but it's the only crock I know of from Hoboken from that period that's that size.
Right.
And we did buy it from the estate of John De Palma, former trustee, big collector. And I'm really proud of that artifact.
We've tagged that as 1885.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did we come up with that date, do you think?
I think I found it in I found them in the city directories.
I'm going to guess. And people, city directories is sort of like a phone book of the day.
Yeah,
but it's before phone books,
Yeah.
and it gives addresses.
Yeah.
And when you get into the residence section, it many times gives the trade of the individual.
Right.
So they're pretty good. Yeah. We have some. The library has some. Yeah. Yeah. There are some online.
We have a great digital collection for reference. It's not available online yet.
Okay. It is. So just teasing you, we got stuff.
We got stuff.
And I will say that this exhibit has a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
This could be one of the densest exhibits we've ever done. And I'm kind of a stuff person.
Right.
And if we had an artifact for Washington Street, we said, let's use it.
Yeah.
Including the 16-foot wrench. You want to talk about some of our East Side artifacts down below?
You know, I think the one we have this great photo of the Fabian with the child actor on the running board there, and for a little bit too long, I thought that was a girl.
Yeah, and then the dress. Yeah. And, you know, if this was a show about fashion and fashion changes, and that was fairly common to do that.
And then you know, I realized that it was actually the
marquee.
The marquee actually mentions Davy Lee. And that is actually Davy Lee. I went and I did some searching and found that was Davy Lee. And then I was like, oh, that's not a girl on Fabian.
Right, right. And I remember Davy Lee. This must have been like a press photo.
Sure.
And the Fabian was the main entertainment theater in Hoboken. We have a nice layout over there.
There's the Fabian.
Combination of brick and fireproof materials.
Yes.
Unfortunately torn down. And then you have that other great, I don't know if you want to get to another great shot of the Fabian.
On the waterfront. Yeah.
And it's when they're showing the film on the waterfront. And I don't think we've had that long, that image.
No, we haven't.
And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And then, you know, each one of these pictures does tell a story.
It does.
Like you could get into researching Davy Lee. Apparently Davy Lee was one of the most popular child actors of his day, kind of like it's Shirley Temple, and then Davy Lee comes in like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But like a lot of child actors, is a kind of a sad part of the story.
Right. It was.
And as I remember, his parents kind of absconded with his fortune.
Yeah, he and Jackie Coogan were the two.
That's right. From The Kid, Jackie Coogan did The Kid.
And
that was. And I don't think I've ever seen a film by Davy Lee.
No.
But it reminds me, we might do a Davy Lee evening.
Let's check out Davy Lee. Yeah.
And when a child actor is kind of big in the 1920s, you forget they lived until I think late 70s, 80s.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So we missed our opportunity to meet Davy Lee, but obviously in the exhibit.
I'm also a fan of the hand.
Oh yeah.
You have your story about that. It's from Goodman's. Right?
Yeah, that was, you know, some of these artifacts were things that I recovered on site. They weren't donated.
Right.
In the good old days when we weren't running a museum with regular hours, I could rove around town and sort of try to figure out, you know, what's going on in this building.
Yeah.
This probably is early 90s when we recovered it, and I got to go down into the basement of Goodman's, which was which was a clothing store, glove store,
kind of a haberdashery.
A haberdashery, kind of a famous business in its day.
Yeah.
But I think really what was keeping Goodman's alive was they were landlords. They owned a lot of property, and Old Man Goodman was always getting into trouble, like not providing heat and things like that.
Okay, yeah.
So anyway, store was still operating, but when you went in, it was from another time.
Right.
But when they closed up, I got to roam the basement, and it's sort of getting into the weeds. But I remember
there were hands.
There was a big stack of hands in the basement. I don't think it's pre-cell phone. I don't think I had a flashlight. Didn't really know what I was looking for or at.
Yeah, yeah.
And I reached into this box of hands, and when I did that, most of the hands turned into dust.
Oh my gosh.
Termites had gotten to these wooden hands, and I didn't really know, you know, was this a serial killer or what's going on?
Right.
But luckily this hand was intact.
That's great.
And was a glove model. Does have a little digit you can move.
Oh.
and
I did not know that.
yeah, movable part. And that was kind of fun. And it, something like that, again, it's a hand mannequin, but we have a good story and we do know where it came from.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Hope you believe me.
Yeah. We have some clocks up above.
Yeah. Clocks were always used for advertising purposes. And we still have a few remnants on Washington Street of clocks. Like the ones that you see now, the cast iron ones are actually faux clocks.
That's right.
But back in the day, clocks were kind of integral. Not everyone owned a wristwatch.
Right.
And so it was kind of a public service.
Yeah.
So you got Marcus Jewelers at 106 Washington.
Right.
And then you have a clock that, we're not sure if it's the actual clock, but around it is the metal band that says, "Welcome to your City Hall." This was on the first floor of City Hall above the elevator. And I can remember it was, you had a transition from Mayor Cappiello to Mayor Vazzetti.
Yeah.
Mayor Vazzetti was kind of, symbolic and the people's mayor, that kind of thing. And it used to say, "Welcome to City Hall." And then early on, someone changed it over to "Welcome to your City Hall."
Nice.
And words are important, and it was just kind of symbolic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
That's great.
You want to take a break from the map and just feature our cart?
Of course, yeah.
We'll try have to pull back a little bit.
Yeah. So we have a cart. It's just looking great.
I think so. Yeah, it's kind of a hard thing to fill the frame with, but where do I start? How did this thing survive?
Yeah.
We installed the exhibit last August, so that means we've been up that long.
Yeah.
And I think over the summer, June, July, we got wind that there was this intact hot dog cart from before World War I that was looking for a home, and had Hoboken creds and very likely Washington Street creds.
Yeah.
So we met James Mazzola, who still sells hot dogs today at 4th and Jefferson. And he said, this place needs a home. It needs to be seen by the public. And would we take it on? Pretty much everyone said, "Don't do it. You're going to have to store it. And, where are we going to put it?" But since it kind of connected to the exhibit for 2nd and Washington, I said, let's let it fly.
Yeah.
So we really thank James Mazzola for this. Its history is a little complicated.
I have a picture.
Oh, cool. Let's see it. Thank you for doing that.
So there's a picture.
Okay. So this is the picture that you're seeing is the gentleman is James Mazzola's father, who's known as Onofrio.
Oh.
And his nickname was Nafi.
Nafi.
Okay. People will walk into the museum, see this cart, and say, "That's Nafi's cart."
Oh, wow.
They know it.
Wow.
But people always had a little trouble saying Onofrio. So it became Nafi's cart.
Yeah, okay.
And so if you see that, let's stay on this picture.
Sure.
So it's hard to see it, but the cart that we have is very similar.
Very similar.
But the cart we're have in the museum is not the same cart.
It's not, right.
So I learned today, I spoke to James because I knew we were doing this, and James said this was his father's cart.
Got it.
Nafi. I may have already told the story confusedly. This is actually the grandfather that
we're looking at the grandfather in front of his cart. Right.
And so this cart, I'm not even sure anymore.
All right.
So,
but it's hilarious that the Frankfurter sign is upside down.
So James explained,
and 7-Up.
Yes. So this picture is probably from the 1940s. Looks earlier though.
Yeah.
But anyway, apparently they wanted to sort of, customize this cart and say, what's it say? Frankfurters?
Frankfurters, yeah.
But it's backwards. It's upside down and backwards. So apparently when they engaged the sign painter, the cart is upside down.
Oh, geez. All right.
And so they painted it right side up. as when it was upside down, but when they flipped it, it, was the wrong reading.
Okay.
So, if the shoe fits, wear it. I don't know. They sort of liked it. It became a joke.
Right.
And that's the story James told me today.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool. So the umbrella is not original, but the basic card is.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the days when you didn't have propane, you didn't have gasoline.
That's right.
Which might have been dangerous.
Yeah.
But you used charcoal or wood. Yeah. And how this thing, I'm just going to walk in.
Go ahead.
This thing just glides.
It glides. Yeah.
I mean,
it's very well balanced.
It moves better than, a lot of suitcases on wheels.
That's right.
Okay. So it's counterbalanced. This is the new innovation, the stainless steel containers.
Oh, okay.
And we have a lot of good connections with hot dog folks, our friend Tony.
Okay.
And he sells hot dogs out here in the season on Hudson Street.
Yeah.
He just, when he comes in, he just starts playing music. He just says, "Oh, I love the sound. I love the sound." And as I said, Mr. Mazzola, James Mazzola, is probably getting ready to retire, but you can still catch him at 4th and Jefferson. And he really prides himself in selling hot dogs with not so much sauerkraut, but red onions, which he feels was a contribution from his father, Naffy's cart.
Got it.
So a long story, may have mixed up some generations, but we got the cart.
We got the cart.
We got the cart. Right. We got the stories.
Oh, man.
So I'm exhausted.
Me too. We're an hour, almost an hour in. And
Holy moly.
Yeah, we barely
we're not going to, we'll go a few more minutes.
Yeah, we will.
So maybe you want to talk a little bit about one of the favorite artifacts, which is a bit understated.
Yeah. So the understated, you mean the Lalo House of Charles shirt box?
Yeah.
It's a shirt box. I'm not exactly sure how it came into the collection. Do you have a memory?
I think Charles Jr. gave it to us.
Okay. Yeah.
And people might have remembered Charles Sr.
Right.
And he took over the business from another clothing store.
Right.
I believe after World War II.
Yeah.
Charles Sr. took one of those tests, like what would your background, make you, how could it direct in your transitioning out of the military? And somehow the questions, he dressed really well and he liked people. And so he apprenticed with the family that came before him.
Got it.
Probably Italian or German, Irish. And it became Lalo's House of Charles. Which is just the best name. You hear a little trumpet. It's
the House of Charles.
And Charles Jr., I believe, has recently sold the building. He had various businesses afterwards that were kind of eco-friendly and maybe a little ahead of his time.
That's right.
But he has decided to leave Washington Street.
And the thing about it is that people who come in, old-timer Hoboken folks come in and they're just like, I can't believe you have that.
Right.
I haven't seen one of those in blankety-blank years.
How did it survive?
How did it survive?
I mean, his chances of surviving are greater than Naffy's car because the size.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, when people come in who are here in the 60s and 70s, and they just go, oh man, I would love getting my paycheck and it could go so far at Lalo's. And they just had a lot, a lot of choices and economical for sure on there.
All right, maybe one more or two.
Sure, maybe we should come all the way down and skip.
All right.
Okay, sorry to do that to the 600, 900 block.
Yeah. The Hoboken's
I think we should talk Schnackenberg.
Oh yeah, let's do. Sure.
So we, one of the favorite uptown stores for several generations was Schnackenberg's. People have a hard time saying Schnackenberg's. I love to say it. And the address for Schnackenberg's is 1110 Washington Street. The Coke sign that hangs from it from the building is still there,
Yeah.
but it has changed to Alfalfa's restaurant.
Right.
And that's sort of a good example of old German soda fountain luncheonette place changing to contemporary salad, eat healthy kind of thing.
Yeah.
But many of us knew Schneckenberg's, I'll say, you know, up until, the 90s. And several generations ran it.
Yep.
And then it got taken over by Eugene and Joyce Flynn, who have given us several of the window display decal artifacts.
Yeah.
And but one of our prize objects, actually also given by Eugene and Joyce, is this price rationing menu.
Yeah.
And this is right after or during World War II. And a ham and cheese sandwich is 25 cents.
Yeah.
And we do, we've had a treasure hunt for kids visiting the museum. And we had a group of Cub Scouts yesterday, and they scored really well. But when we asked them the question, how much was a ham and cheese sandwich at Schneckenberg's? And the answer on this board is 0.25. They did not have a concept of 0.25.
Oh.
They, you know, they just don't use that type of fraction anymore, I guess, or weren't familiar with it. So it actually stumped them. And then I remember one of the adults saying, that's a quarter, you know, 25. They go, we didn't know that. You know, so it's very interesting to see how people perceive things. We also have an amazing 10-minute film that's from Nicole Lucas, who made it in the 80s.
Yeah.
And in 1989, Tom Vizzetti, mayor at the time, is kind of the talking head, the narrator.
Yeah.
It's priceless, this film.
Yeah.
And if you came into the museum and you only had 10 minutes, I would say sit down and watch this film.
Right.
And it will be available in the Sinatra Lounge or Media Lounge after this exhibit comes down.
Yeah.
So again, the Kelly's Pub sign is a little obscured. We love that sign. Kelly's Pub was kind of the last hard drinking bar in Hoboken.
A bucket of blood.
Yes, whiskey shots and a little beer for a quarter. And now it's been 14.
Yeah, been 14.
So think of that transition from, you know, just drink your alcohol, no food, not even a bar pie, and now you get a quiche.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So how are we doing on time?
We're at 57 minutes.
Okay, maybe we'll just make one comment about our traffic light.
Sure, okay. Yeah.
So a few years back, we got notice that the city was changing the street lights on Hoboken, Washington Street again.
Right.
And we kind of said, okay, that's nice. But then this group started like emailing like every day saying, aren't you going to save the traffic light? And I'm like going, oh man, you know, I just don't know if it's really on my radar screen.
Right, that's right.
And the group really came together and really encouraged us to save it. We did reach out to the city. The mayor was really accommodating. And lo and behold, this traffic light ended up here. And the traffic light gang, sometimes known as the traffic light mafia. Isn't that their name? Yeah, that's their slang name. You know, but there's probably a story behind that. I don't
know. Be.
But they were great guys.
They're great guys,
And they came and rewired this thing with LED lights with a little control box, not like the big ones you see on Washington Street.
Right.
And assured us that this was from the 1930s. And I forget the name of the company, Mohr, M-O-H-R. Horny. Okay, Horny. Yes.
And the idea was that they really liked the traffic light so much because at the time it was taken down, it was the longest operating traffic light in their mind.
In the United States of America. We're not going to try to prove that.
No, we're not going to try to prove that.
It is ours. It's just like Naffy's card. It's now our traffic light.
That's right.
And we usually don't promote the, the oldest one, but we do like people to think that perhaps Frank Sinatra, when he had his learner's permit, ran this traffic light.
Ran this red light, yeah.
Because 1938,
yes.
he owned a car. He's the only one in that original singing group who owned a car. So I can see him, running up to Journal Square to play at the Lowe's or something, and running that light. It's a beautiful light.
We have Meredith Hill Kwiatkowski. She says, "Thanks, Bob. We'll send you Hoboken pictures from her family next month."
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Meredith.
That's very cool.
Yeah, she's on Facebook.
Oh, fantastic. We're always looking for new materials.
Yeah.
We don't actually have to own them. We can scan them.
We can scan them.
But we prefer to own them
right.
if they're small.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway,
let's just take a little walk around and we have artifacts here from the various
maybe
shops.
We'll end on this case here. But these are all tchotchkes that different businesses in town
calendars
would
and
have
plates.
Marketed their business.
Yeah.
Again, all Washington Street.
That's right. Matchbook
behind
covers.
it is the sign from City Discount.
Yep.
Terry Castellano's store, which he has renamed the business.
Bell Book and Candle, I think it is now.
Yeah. And then this sign was executed by the Hoboken Sign Shop, Ray Guzman, who's done so many of the illustrious signs on Washington Street.
Yep.
And this will be going back to City Discount.
That's right.
So don't worry, it's not another storage item.
It's not another storage item.
Yeah. And you got a nice view of the exhibit looking west.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of enjoyed showing the exhibit this way.
Yeah, we've left out our artists on the avenue.
Okay, you're trying to get it all in.
I'm just you're right. Briefly, we have various interpretations.
Washington Street has inspired a lot of local artists.
Yeah.
Everyone from Robert Frank to Frank Hanavan,
Mm-hmm.
Bob Sky,
Yeah.
Carolyn Carlson,
Yep.
Even Lewis Hine.
That's right. That's right. We have Lewis Hine too. Yeah.
That's
Carol
cool.
Halabian.
Should we show what lies ahead? We're in
our blizzard
we're in
photo?
the December month.
Yeah.
Here's a shot of Washington Street in the blizzard of 1888.
Yeah.
1888.
Yes.
And again, we're talking March 12th.
Right. Pretty late.
Yeah, definitely. We haven't even had our first snowstorm yet.
That's right. So yeah. So that's our exhibit.
Okay. So we're kind of segueing out.
We're gonna fade out into our thanks. Let's see. Thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate hearing from you and your comments. And if you're watching this after it's live, continue to make comments and ask questions. We'll do our best to follow up with you. We've got. This is our second to last Hoboken Talks. We're going to have a Mr. Snitch holiday special next week.
Yeah.
That's going to be, Mr. Snitch was a regular in the Hoboken Pictorial for 20, 30 years. And it was a gossip column in a way that were all blind items. And Mr. Snitch had a little graphic figure, and we've kind of revived Mr. Snitch, and I'm running a social media where I'm reposting those items. So we're gonna have some fun and sing some songs and tell some jokes and read some Mr. Snitch items from years gone by.
Mr. Snitch lives on.
Yeah, that's right. And Mrs. Snitch will be joining us too. Yes. We'd like to acknowledge the memory of Mel Kiernan. He passed away. He was an educator and a fan of Hoboken history, and he thought of us in his will. So we really appreciate being acknowledged and supported that way. Thank you to the Kiernan family for helping us out. The New Jersey Historical Commission, they provide us with some grant funds to help Hoboken Talks.
Lots of grants.
And lots of other grant funds too, all the time. Your tax dollars at work go through to the Historical Commission and then come to us. So we really appreciate them doing that.
Great crew.
Great crew over there. The New Jersey Council for the Humanities. They have also provided us a grants over the years, and they are sponsoring our next exhibit.
Yep.
That's a major funder of our next
January 22nd.
That's right. The Shipyard Circle. Those are high donors, high-level donors, and some of them, of course, are our trustees. So we like to acknowledge all those folks. And of course, Iron State. Here we are in an Iron State, built in our Iron State storefront that we have. They've been supporting us for ever, and they every day we thank them for allowing us and helping us to do what we're doing. And just take the handle.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and our next exhibit, of course, is the fires, and that's gonna start up in January 22nd, and we're going to be closed after during the Christmas break, and then we'll be mounting the exhibit.
Yeah,
so
it does take a month to put the exhibit together. So the last chance to see this exhibit is December 23rd.
Yeah.
A week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow.
Scary.
Yep.
So please come visit in person.
Yeah.
And we'd love to see you in the museum.
So again, comment, like, share, subscribe. We're trying to get our subscription numbers up on YouTube. So if you would please subscribe.
We're close to 1,000.
We're close to 1,000.
It's like 940
942.
Something.
We need 60 more people.
Okay.
That would be really nice. But anyhow, comment and like and share. Check out all of our videos on YouTube. We've got so many wonderful things there.
There are a lot.
There's a lot. And I'm sure they're interesting. And you can play them at 2x and whatever, And what's next? And that's it. So thanks everybody for coming by and watching. And we look forward to seeing you again.
See you on the avenue.
See you on the avenue.
See you in the museum.
All right. Okay. Let me push. Thanks everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Rand.
All right.